June stood and looked at the space station. It was huge and beautiful. It was called the Celestial Eyrie. This was the home of the Empress of the Zephyrian Star Empire. June felt very small. The station was like a jewel made of crystal and light. It shone against the blackness of space. Small ships flew around it like flies around a bright lamp. He was a long way from Earth. He was a long way from his small apartment in Seoul. He remembered the green plants on his balcony. He was a gardener, a specialist in alien plants. That was why he was here. It was the job of a lifetime. But now, looking at the giant station, he felt only a cold fear in his stomach. A door slid open with a quiet hiss. A woman in a dark uniform stood there. She was Captain Park. She was the head of security for the human workers on the station. Her face was serious. She did not smile. "June, follow me," she said. Her voice was flat and direct. June picked up his small bag and followed her. The hallway was wide and clean. The walls seemed to be made of white light. Their footsteps made no sound on the floor. "You will listen to everything I say," Captain Park said without looking back. "Your job is simple. You will care for the Empress's garden. It is a private arboretum. It is a large room full of plants from many worlds. The health of these plants is very important to the Empress's health. You will make sure they are perfect." June nodded. "I understand. I have studied the files on the flora." "Good. You will go to the garden at the same time each day. You will do your work. You will not speak to the Empress. You will not look at her for too long. If she is in the garden, you bow your head and you leave. Your job is the plants. Nothing else. Do you understand?" "Yes, Captain," June said. The rules were very clear. He was a servant. He was invisible. They walked into a large room with a window that showed the stars. Captain Park stopped and turned to him. Her eyes were hard. "The Zephyrians are not like us," she said. "They are ancient. They are powerful. The Empress is more than a queen. She is like a god to her people. You are a tool to keep her garden beautiful. Remember that. Do not try to be a friend. Do not try to be interesting. Be a good tool. Then when your contract is finished, you will go home alive and rich." June looked out at the stars. He thought about the stories. The Zephyrian Empire was vast. Their technology was like magic. And he, June, from Earth, was here to water their plants. It felt strange. But he needed the money. His family needed the money. He would be a good tool. Captain Park took him to his room. It was small and plain. There was a bed, a table, and a small screen. There was no window. It was comfortable, but it felt like a prison cell. "Your work begins in 1 hour," Captain Park said. "The computer will show you the way to the arboretum. Do not get lost." She left and the door closed behind her. June sat on the bed. The room was very quiet. He could only hear the soft hum of the station. He felt completely alone. After a while, he stood up. It was time to see the garden. He left his room and followed the directions on a small screen on the wall. He walked through long, empty hallways. He saw a few other people. They were humans and other aliens. They all walked quickly. They did not look at him. They did not talk. The station was beautiful, but it had no life. It was a silent, perfect machine. Finally, he came to a giant door. It was made of a shimmering, wood-like material. He pressed his hand to a panel. The door slid open without a sound. The air that came out was warm and wet. It smelled of soil and flowers and strange sweet fruits. June stepped inside and his mouth fell open. He could not believe what he was seeing. The arboretum was not a room. It was a world. A giant glass dome stretched high above him. A fake sun shone warm light from above. He saw tall trees with purple leaves. He saw bushes with glowing blue berries. He saw a small stream that ran over colorful stones. There were flowers of every shape and size. Some of them sang with soft musical notes. It was the most beautiful place he had ever seen. This was his new workplace. For the first time since he arrived, June felt a little happy. He could be happy here among the plants. He walked along a stone path. He touched the leaves of a large fern. The plant shivered and curled its leaves around his finger for a second. It was friendly. He spent the next hour walking through the garden. He checked the soil. He looked at the leaves for signs of sickness. He found a machine that made water and food for the plants. He was so busy that he did not hear the main door open. A presence filled the room. The air itself seemed to become still. The singing flowers went silent. June turned around. Empress Lyra stood at the entrance of the garden. She was tall and slim. Her skin was like white pearl. It had a soft light of its own. Her hair was long and silver. It flowed over her shoulders like a waterfall of metal. She wore a simple dress of gray silk. Her eyes were the color of moonlight. They were large and calm. She was the most beautiful and terrifying person June had ever seen. He remembered Captain Park's orders. He quickly bowed his head. He looked down at the ground. His heart was beating very fast. He hoped she would not see him. He hoped she would just walk past. He heard the soft sound of her footsteps. She was walking on the path. She was coming towards him. He did not move. He did not breathe. The footsteps stopped. He could see the bottom of her gray dress near his feet. He could feel her looking at him. A long moment passed. June was afraid to look up. He was afraid to move. Then he felt a command. It was not a sound. It was a feeling in his mind. A feeling that said, "Look at me." Slowly, June raised his head. The Empress was looking directly at him. Her silver eyes did not blink. They looked deep into him. He felt she could see all his thoughts, all his fears. He felt completely naked. She did not look angry. She did not look happy. She looked empty. Her face was a perfect, beautiful mask. There was no feeling in it. Her eyes moved from his face to the plant beside him. It was the fern that had curled around his finger. She looked at it for a moment. Then her eyes returned to June. She gave a single slow nod. It was a tiny movement, then she turned and walked away. She moved down another path, her form disappearing behind the large red leaves of a tree. June stood there, shaking. He could breathe again. The encounter was over. It had lasted less than a minute, but he felt like he had run a long race. He had done his job. He had not spoken. He had bowed. She had acknowledged him with a nod. That was all. It was exactly what Captain Park said would happen. But as he stood there, a strange thought came to him. In her eyes, in that one deep look, he had not seen a god. He had not seen a powerful ruler. He had seen a deep, deep sadness. A loneliness so vast it was like the space outside the station. He shook his head. It was just his imagination. He was tired from the long trip. The Empress was a powerful alien. He was a human gardener. He was seeing things that were not there. He went back to his work, but he could not forget the image of her eyes. Later, he went to the station's commissary to eat. It was a large room with long tables. Many humans and other species were eating there. The room was quiet. People talked in low voices. June got his food, a plain paste that was supposed to have all the nutrients he needed. It tasted like nothing. He found an empty spot at a table and sat down. He ate alone. He watched the other people. They all looked tired and serious. No one was laughing. No one was smiling. Then a young woman sat down across from him. She had a friendly face and bright eyes. "Hello," she said. "You are the new gardener?" "June, right?" June was surprised. "Yes, how did you know?" "I work in logistics. I see all the new worker files." "My name is Suman," she said. She smiled. "The food is bad, isn't it?" June looked at his paste. "Yes, it is very bad," Suman laughed. It was a nice sound in the quiet room. "You get used to it. Or you don't. So you met the big boss today?" June was confused. "Captain Park?" "No," Suman said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "The real boss. The Empress. I heard she visited the garden today." June nodded. "She did. I saw her. It was brief." "What was she like?" Suman asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. June thought about the perfect face and the sad eyes. He thought about Captain Park's warnings. "She was very impressive," he said carefully. Suman nodded, understanding his caution. "It's okay. You can talk to me. It's not easy here. Everyone is so scared. They think if they say one wrong word, they will be thrown out an airlock." She took a bite of her food. "It's not like that. They just send you back to Earth. But still, it's not a fun place." June felt a little better. It was good to talk to someone. "It is very quiet." "That's a nice way to say it," Suman said. "It's a beautiful golden cage. For us and for her." June looked at her. "For her?" Suman looked around to make sure no one was listening. "She never leaves her rooms. She never sees anyone. She just rules from a distance. It must be a lonely life." She stood up to leave. "Be careful, June. Do your job. Keep your head down. But it's good to have a friend here. See you around." She walked away, leaving June with his thoughts. He looked out the large window at the stars. Suman had said the same thing he had felt. Lonely. He finished his food and went back to his small, quiet room. He lay on his bed and stared at the plain ceiling. He thought about the garden. He thought about the green plants and the singing flowers. He thought about the Empress with the sad silver eyes. He was here to do a job. He was a tool. But as he fell asleep, he wondered about the person inside the palace. And he wondered why someone who had everything seemed to have nothing at all. The days on the station began to blend into one another. June fell into a routine. He woke up in his small room. He ate the bland food in the commissary. Sometimes he saw Suman and they would talk for a few minutes. Then he would go to the arboretum. The garden was his refuge. It was the only place that felt alive. He learned the names of the plants. He learned which ones liked more water and which ones liked more light. There was one plant, the starlight vine, that was not doing well. Its leaves, which were supposed to glow with a soft blue light, were dull and brown. June worked carefully with it. He adjusted the nutrients in its water. He moved it to a spot with more of the fake sunlight. He spoke to it in a soft voice like he used to do with the plants on his balcony back home. He did not see the Empress again for a long time. He knew she sometimes walked in the garden because he would see fresh footprints on the soft soil of the paths, but their schedules did not cross. He began to relax. He could do his work and be alone with the plants. It was a peaceful life. Then one afternoon everything changed. He was on his knees, carefully trimming the dead leaves from the starlight vine. He was so focused on his work that he did not hear the door open. He did not feel the air change. The first thing he knew was a shadow falling over him. He looked up, his heart jumping into his throat. Empress Lyra stood there. She was closer than before. She was looking down at his hands at the sick plant he was holding. June froze. Captain Park's voice screamed in his head. "Do not speak. Bow your head and leave." He started to get up, to bow, to run away, but then she spoke. Her voice was not what he expected. It was not loud or commanding. It was soft, like the sound of small wind chimes. It was a beautiful sound. "That one is dying," she said. June was so shocked to hear her speak that he could not form a word. He just stared at her. Her silver eyes were not on him but on the vine. He found his voice, but it was a whisper. "Yes, Your Majesty. Can you save it?" she asked. Her eyes finally moved from the plant to his face. June swallowed. I am trying. It needs a different kind of food. The soil here is not right for it." She was silent for a moment, just looking at him. He felt she was weighing his words, judging his truthfulness. "You have a gentle touch with things that are dying," she said. There was no emotion in her voice. It was just an observation. June did not know what to say. "Thank you," was all he could manage. She did not reply. She turned and walked away down the path, her gray dress flowing behind her. June stood there, his knees weak. He had spoken to the Empress. He had broken the most important rule. He was sure alarms would sound. He was sure Captain Park would arrive any second to arrest him, but nothing happened. The garden was quiet. The only sound was the trickle of the stream. The next day he went to the garden with a nervous heart. He worked, but he kept looking at the door. He expected the Empress to come. She did not. The day after that, he was checking the leaves of a large tree with orange flowers. He heard the door open. He turned. It was her. This time he bowed his head properly. He waited for her to pass, but she stopped near him. She looked at the orange flowers. "What is this one called?" she asked. June was startled. He looked up. "It is called a fire blossom, Your Majesty, from the planet Xylos." "It smells of spice," she said. "Yes," June said. He felt a little more brave. "The scent gets stronger in the evening," she nodded slowly. She did not say anything else. She continued her walk. This became the new pattern. Every 2 or 3 days she would come to the garden while he was working. She would stop and ask him a question about a plant. "What is its name? Where does it come from? Why does its leaf have that shape?" Her questions were always about the plants, but she always asked them in a way that required more than a yes or no answer. She seemed to be listening carefully to everything he said. June started to prepare for her visits. He would learn more about the plants in the garden. He wanted to have good answers for her. He found he enjoyed these small conversations. They broke the loneliness of his days. One afternoon she found him near the stream. He was feeding the small glowing fish that lived in the water. "You care for the animals as well?" she asked. The garden is a system, Your Majesty, June said. The plants and the animals help each other. The fish help keep the water clean. She watched the fish swim in circles. It is a small world in here, she said. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. A complete world. Yes, June agreed. She was silent for a long time. Then she spoke again, her eyes still on the water. You are from Earth. It was not a question, but he answered. Yes, Your Majesty. From a city called Seoul. I have read about Earth, she said. The data files are very detailed. They speak of oceans of water, a yellow sun, seasons that change. That is all true, June said. What is it like? She asked. She turned her silver eyes on him. The sun on your skin? The question was so simple, but it surprised him. How could he explain it to someone who had probably never felt a real sun? It is warm, he said, struggling for the right words. On a summer day, it feels like a blanket. It can be so hot it makes you sweat. But on a spring day, it is a gentle warmth. It feels good. It feels like life. The Empress listened. Her face was still a mask, but her eyes were focused intently on him. I see, she said, and then she walked away. June thought about that question for the rest of the day. Why would a powerful Empress care about the feeling of a sun? He thought about what Sumin had said. A golden cage. He began to understand. She could read about a sun, but she could not feel it. She could rule 1,000 worlds, but she lived in a few rooms. The next time she came, her questions changed. They were not just about plants anymore. You have a family on Earth? She asked. She was standing near the starlight vine, which was now starting to show a faint blue glow on its new leaves. Yes, Your Majesty. My parents. A younger sister. Do you miss them? The question was so personal it felt like a physical touch. Yes, he said honestly. Every day. What do you miss? She asked. Her tone was curious, not commanding, June thought. I miss my mother's cooking. I miss the sound of my sister laughing. I miss talking about nothing with my father. He paused. I miss the noise. The city was always loud. Here it is very quiet. Noise. She repeated the word, as if it were a strange and foreign concept. The data files say noise is a pollutant. An annoyance, like sometimes it is, June said. But sometimes, the noise is the sound of people living. It can be a comfort. She looked around the vast, silent garden. The only sounds were the water and the soft songs of the flowers. It was a beautiful silence. But June wondered if, after 1,000 years, it felt like a prison. A week later, something extraordinary happened. He was working and she arrived for her walk. She did not ask him a question. She simply stood nearby, watching him repot a small, shy plant that curled up when touched. After several minutes of silence, she spoke. Tell me about the rain, she said. June put down his tool. Rain, Your Majesty. The data files say water falls from the sky on Earth. Describe it. So June did. He described a summer rainstorm. The dark clouds gathering. The smell of the air before it rains. The first heavy drops hitting the hot ground. The sound of it on the roof. The way the whole city seemed to be washed clean. He described walking in the rain, getting soaked, and not caring. He talked for a long time. The Empress did not move. She just listened. Her luminous eyes were fixed on him, but he could tell she was not really seeing him. She was seeing the rain. She was feeling the drops on her skin. When he finished, there was another long silence. Thank you, she said softly, and then she left. June stood alone in the garden. He felt a strange feeling. He felt useful, not just as a gardener, but as a person. He was giving her something that no one else could. He was giving her a connection to a real, messy, beautiful world. He knew Captain Park would be furious. He was breaking all the rules. He was not being a tool. He was becoming a storyteller. A friend. That evening he saw Suman in the commissary. You look different, she said, studying his face. Did something happen? June thought about telling her everything, but he decided against it. It felt too private, too fragile. The starlight vine is getting better, he said instead. It's starting to glow, Suman smiled. That's good. It's nice to see something get better around here. June nodded. He looked out the window at the stars. He thought about the Empress in her silent palace. He thought about the feeling of real sun and real rain. For the first time, he felt that his job was not just about keeping plants alive. It was about bringing a small piece of life to someone who had none. And he knew with a certainty that scared him that he would do it again. The air in the arboretum was warm and heavy. June was checking the leaves of a large, broad plant when the main door slid open. He did not need to turn around. He knew it was her. He had come to know the sound of her steps, the way the air changed when she entered. He turned and bowed his head as he always did now. It was a sign of respect, but it was no longer a gesture of fear. Empress Lyra walked towards him. She stopped a few feet away. Her silver eyes looked at the plant he was tending. "This one is new," she said. Her voice was like soft music. "It was delivered this morning, Your Majesty," June said. "It is called a whisper fern. Its leaves move when there is a sound." He clapped his hands softly. The large leaves of the fern shivered and turned slightly towards the sound. The Empress watched, her head tilted. A very small, almost invisible smile touched her lips. It was gone in a second, but June saw it. It was the first time he had seen any expression on her face. "It is listening," she said. "Yes," June said. "In a way it is." She was silent for a moment. Then she spoke, her eyes still on the fern. "Your stories about Earth are more interesting than the data files." June did not know what to say. "Thank you, Your Majesty. The data files give facts. They do not give feeling." She finally looked at him. "You speak of the heat of the sun. The data file only gives a temperature number. You speak of the noise of the city. The data file measures the decibels. It is not the same." "No," June agreed. "It is not the same." She began to walk slowly down the path. June hesitated for a second, then he walked a few steps behind her. This had become their new routine. She would walk and he would follow, answering her questions. "Tell me about a memory," she said. "A small one. Not an important event." Just a moment, June thought. He looked at the fake sky of the Arboretum and tried to remember a real one. "I was a boy," he began, maybe 8 years old. "I was walking home from school. It was an autumn day. The air was cool. I remember kicking a red leaf on the sidewalk. It made a crunching sound. I kicked it all the way down the street until it broke into little pieces. My mother was waiting for me at the door. She scolded me because my shoes were dirty." He paused. "That is all. It is nothing important." "It is important," the Empress said quietly. She stopped walking and looked at a flower that was slowly changing color from blue to purple. "It is a piece of a life. I have no such pieces." June felt a deep sadness for her. He could not imagine a life without small memories. "Your life is important," he said. "You rule worlds." "I rule worlds," she repeated, but her voice was empty. "I see reports. I make decisions that affect billions of lives. But it is all at a distance. It is like reading a very long, very complicated data file." She turned to him and her silver eyes were intense. "I have lived for centuries, June, but I have not lived. Do you understand the difference?" June looked at her. He saw the loneliness he had always felt in her. Now he saw the hunger behind it. A deep, desperate hunger for something real. "I think I do," he said softly. "My life is a performance," she continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Every move I make is watched. Every word I say is recorded. I am the Empress. I must be perfect. I must be calm. I must be distant." She looked down at her own hands. They were long and pale and perfect. "I want to feel something. Anything. I want to taste real food, not the nutrient paste they give me. I want to feel the sun. I want to laugh without thinking about who is watching." Her words hung in the air between them. This was her hidden desire. It was not for power or for more wealth. It was for the simple human experiences that were stolen from her. "I want to be human." "For just a moment," she said. She looked directly at him and her gaze was a plea. "Will you help me?" June's heart was pounding. This was far beyond watering plants. This was a secret. This was a rebellion against her entire world, Your Majesty. Captain Park?" He stammered. "I am the Empress," she said. And for the first time there was a sharp edge in her voice. "Captain Park serves me. But you see me. You are not afraid to tell me about red leaves and dirty shoes?" June thought about the consequences. He could be sent back to Earth in disgrace. He could lose everything. But as he looked at her, he knew he could not say no. He had become her only window to the world. "What would you have me do?" he asked. The sharpness in her eyes softened. "I do not know. You are the one who knows about life. Teach me, show me, help me steal a piece of it." That was how it began. A conspiracy of two. June's life became a double one. On the surface, he was still the quiet gardener. He did his work. He bowed to the Empress when she passed. He avoided Captain Park, but underneath he was planning. He talked to Suman in the commissary. He was careful. He did not tell her about the Empress. He just asked questions. Sumin, if you could have one food from home, what would it be? He asked one day. Sumin's eyes lit up. Bibimbap. Without a doubt. A hot stone bowl with rice, all the vegetables, a fried egg on top, and lots of spicy sauce. Why? Are you dreaming about food too? Yes, June said with a smile. I am dreaming about food. He used his access to the station's logistics files to make a request. He ordered simple ingredients: rice, spinach, carrots, mushrooms, bean sprouts, and chili paste. He listed it as organic compost materials for sensitive flora. It was not entirely a lie. He could use the leftovers in the garden. He found a small flat device in his room that could play old video files from Earth. He downloaded a few. They were not important historical documents. They were simple things. A comedy show with people laughing, a film about a family, a sports game. He hid everything in a locked storage crate in the arboretum behind a thick group of bushes. The Empress continued her visits. Their conversations became the heart of his days. She asked him about everything. What was it like to have a friend? What was it like to be scared? What did it feel like to be angry? He answered as honestly as he could. He told her about his friends from school. He told her about the time he was lost in a market as a child. He told her about the anger he felt when a teacher unfairly blamed him for something. She listened to it all like a person dying of thirst listens to the sound of water. One evening, the light in the arboretum was set to a soft twilight blue. June was waiting for her. His heart was beating fast. Tonight was the night. She arrived, her form glimmering in the dim light. It is time, June said, his voice barely a whisper. He led her deep into the garden, to a small clearing hidden by weeping trees with long silver leaves. In the center was a soft blanket he had taken from his room. On the blanket were two bowls. They were simple metal bowls like the ones he used for mixing plant food. In the bowls was bibimbap. It did not look perfect. The rice was a little sticky. The egg was not fried quite right. But it was real food. Next to the bowls was the small screen. The Empress looked at the scene. She did not speak. She just stared. This is a meal from my home, June said softly. It is called bibimbap. You mix it all together before you eat it, and I brought some entertainment. He picked up the screen and turned it on. An old black and white comedy began to play. The sound of a live audience laughing filled the quiet clearing. The Empress slowly sat down on the blanket. She moved with a strange grace, as if she was in a dream. She picked up one of the metal bowls. She looked at the colorful food inside. How do I? She started to ask. You can use your hands, June said. He picked up a clump of rice and vegetables with his fingers and put it in his mouth. Or you can use this. He handed her a simple spoon. She looked at the spoon, then back at the food. Then slowly, she reached her perfect pale hand into the bowl. She picked up some rice and a piece of carrot. She brought it to her lips and tasted it. Her eyes widened. A sound escaped her lips. It was a small, choked gasp. Then something incredible happened. Empress Lyra, the ruler of 1,000 worlds, began to cry. Silent tears fell from her silver eyes, tracing lines down her opalescent cheeks. She did not sob. She just cried while the sound of people laughing from the small screen filled the air around them. It has flavor, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. June felt a lump in his own throat. He had given her a simple meal and it had broken her. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, a strangely human gesture. Then she picked up the spoon and began to eat. She ate with a focus he had never seen before. She was experiencing taste for the first time. When she finished, she looked at the screen. The comedy was still playing. She watched the people on the screen fall over and make silly faces. The audience roared with laughter. And then Empress Lyra laughed. It was a real laugh. Not a quiet, polite sound. It was a full, joyful laugh that echoed in the small clearing. It was the most beautiful sound June had ever heard. In that moment, she was not an empress. She was just a person, sitting on a blanket, eating good food and watching a funny show. She was living, June smiled. He had never felt so happy and so terrified at the same time. He had done it. He had given her a piece of the life she wanted. He knew it was a stolen moment. He knew it could not last. But as he watched her laugh, he knew it was worth any risk. The stolen evening became a secret treasure that June and the Empress carried in their hearts. For the next week, a new energy hummed between them during their garden meetings. Her questions were lighter. The deep sadness in her eyes seemed a little less heavy. Sometimes when she thought he wasn't looking, June would see her touch the leaves of a plant with a new kind of wonder, as if feeling its texture for the first time. They did not try another big event like the dinner and the film. It was too dangerous. But their small conversations continued, now filled with a shared secret. She asked him more about the comedy show. What was the joke? Why did the man slip on the banana? June did his best to explain the simple, silly humor. She listened, and sometimes a real small smile would appear on her face. June felt a happiness he had not known was possible. He was doing something important. He was not just keeping plants alive. He was helping a person live. He was so wrapped up in this feeling that he became less careful. He was in the commissary with Suman. He was telling her about a funny plant that curled up when you touched it. He was in a good mood. You seem different, June, Suman said, studying him. You're always smiling now. Did you find a secret stash of good food or something? June laughed. Something like that. He did not see Captain Park sitting at a table nearby. He did not see her watching him over the top of her data pad. Her eyes were narrow and suspicious. Later that day, June went to the Arboretum. He needed to check on the whisper fern. He also wanted to move the storage crate with the bowls and the screen to a better hiding place. He felt a small itch of worry after his talk with Suman. It was better to be safe. He was kneeling behind the thick bushes unlocking the crate when he heard a voice. It was a voice he had never heard in the garden before. It was hard and cold. Explain this. June's blood ran cold. He turned around slowly. Captain Park stood there. Her arms were crossed. Her face was like stone. Behind her stood 2 large security guards. June's mind went blank. He could not think of a single word to say. Captain Park stepped forward and looked into the open crate. She saw the metal bowls still with a little dried rice stuck to them. She saw the small screen. She picked it up and turned it on. The sound of laughing people filled the air for a second before she turned it off. She looked from the crate to June. Her eyes were burning with anger. You, she said, her voice low and dangerous. What have you done? June stood up. Captain, I can explain. Explain? She cut him off. Explain why you have stolen station property? Explain why you are hiding contraband in the Empress's private garden. She took a step closer. And do not try to lie to me. I have reviewed the logs. Your compost materials were a joke. I have also seen the energy signatures. The Empress has been spending more time here than ever before. What have you been doing with her? June felt a cold sweat on his forehead. We were just talking. About the plants. Do not insult my intelligence, Captain Park snapped. She pointed at the bowls. You were feeding her. You were showing her. This filth, she held up the screen. You have contaminated the divine ruler of the Zephyrian Empire. You have dragged her down to your level. It wasn't like that, June said, his own anger rising. She was happy. She was laughing. The words were out of his mouth before he could stop them. He saw the shock on Captain Park's face. She looked truly horrified. She was laughing, she whispered as if he had said something terrible. You made the Empress laugh? She turned to the guards. Take him now. The 2 guards moved forward and grabbed June's arms. He did not fight them. He was too stunned. They pulled his arms behind his back and put binders on his wrists. Captain Park, please, June said, his voice desperate. She asked me to. She wanted to know what it was like. She is lonely. Her feelings are not for you to concern yourself with, Captain Park said coldly. You are a contractor, a human. You have committed a grave crime against the Imperial Crown. You are guilty of impinging upon the royal sanctity. They marched him out of the garden. June looked back at the beautiful plants, the stream, the hidden clearing. He knew he would never see it again. His heart felt like a heavy stone in his chest. They took him to a small white room deep in the security sector. It was a cell. There was a bench and nothing else. The door locked with a loud final sound. June sat on the bench. He put his head in his hands. He had failed. He had been careless, and now it was over. He thought about the Empress. What would they tell her? That he was a criminal? That he was gone? He hoped she would not blame herself. Hours passed. He had no way to know what time it was. The door finally opened. Captain Park walked in alone. She looked tired. The situation is very serious, she said. She did not look at him. I have spoken to the Zephyrian High Chamberlain. They are demanding your immediate mind wipe and permanent servitude in a mining colony. June felt a cold terror. To have his memories erased? To be a slave? It was worse than death. But, Captain Park continued, as you are a human citizen, I have argued for a lesser punishment. I have convinced them that deportation back to Earth and a permanent ban from any Imperial territory is sufficient. They have agreed, reluctantly. June looked up. He would not be mind-wiped. He would go home. It was what he had wanted, wasn't it? But the thought filled him with a deep emptiness. Captain Park finally looked at him. Her expression was unreadable. You are a fool, June. You thought you were being kind. But you have no idea the damage you may have caused. The Empress is a symbol. She must be above such things. By making her ordinary, you have threatened the stability of her rule. Some of her advisors will see her laughter as a weakness. She is a person, June said softly, not a symbol. To the galaxy, she is a symbol, Captain Park replied. That is all that matters. She turned to leave. A ship will come for you in 12 hours. You will be held here until then. She left and the door locked again. June lay down on the hard bench. He stared at the blank ceiling. He thought about the Empress's laugh. He thought about the taste of the food on her lips. He had given her one perfect moment. And now, because of that, he would be thrown away. He closed his eyes. He hoped the memory of that evening would be enough for her. He hoped it would sustain her through the long, silent years ahead. He must have fallen asleep because the next thing he knew, he was jolted awake by a loud noise. It was not the door. It was a sound from outside his cell. It was a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through the very floor. It was a sound he had heard only once before in a ceremony broadcast across the station. It was the sound of the Imperial alarm. The sound that meant the Empress herself was moving. The door to his cell hissed open. Captain Park stood there, but she was not alone. The two guards were with her, but they looked confused and afraid. What is happening? June asked, sitting up. Captain Park did not answer. She just stared down the hallway, her face pale. Then June saw her. Empress Lyra stood at the end of the corridor. She was not wearing her simple gray dress. She was wearing the full formal regalia of her office, a gown of woven silver that seemed to capture the light of stars, a high collar, a crown of glowing crystals on her head. She looked every inch the divine ruler, and she was walking straight towards his cell. Her face was not the calm mask he knew. It was set in lines of cold, absolute fury. Her silver eyes burned with a light that was not soft but sharp and dangerous. She moved with a power and purpose that made the very air tremble. Captain Park snapped to attention. Your Majesty, this is a secure area. You should not be here. The Empress ignored her. She walked right up to the open cell door. Her eyes found June inside. For a second, the fury in them softened, replaced by a flash of relief. Then the cold anger returned as she turned to Captain Park. You have taken something that is mine, the Empress said. Her voice was no longer soft chimes. It was the sound of cracking ice. It was a voice that commanded entire star systems. Captain Park stood her ground, but June could see she was shaking. Your Majesty, this human has committed a grave crime against you. He has violated the royal sanctity. He was showing you. Human entertainment. He was feeding you common food. He was giving me life, the Empress said, her voice low and deadly. Something my own court has denied me for centuries. She took a step forward, and Captain Park took a step back. This man, the Empress said, pointing to June without looking away from Captain Park, is not a criminal. He is under my protection. You will release him. Now. The command was absolute. It echoed in the small space. Captain Park looked torn. Her duty to protocol fought with her duty to the Empress. Your Majesty, the High Chamberlain. They have decided. I am the Empress, Lyra interrupted, her voice rising to a thunderous level that seemed impossible from her slender frame. I decide. Not the Chamberlain, not you. His contract with you is void. He is no longer an employee. She turned her blazing eyes to June. From this moment, June of Earth is appointed to a new position. He is my royal consul of experiential truth. She looked back at a stunned Captain Park. Now, the Empress said, her voice dropping back to a whisper that was somehow more frightening than her shout. Unlock his bindings. The silence in the security corridor was absolute. The only sound was the soft hum of the station and the ragged breath from Captain Park. She stood frozen, her body rigid with conflict. The Empress's command hung in the air, a tangible force. June could only stare, his mind struggling to catch up. Royal Council of Experiential Truth? The words made no sense, and yet they felt like a lifeline. Captain Park's eyes darted from the Empress's furious face to June's bewildered one. For a long moment it seemed she might refuse. But the authority radiating from the Empress was not something any soldier, human or otherwise, could defy for long. With a stiff, jerky movement, she pulled a small device from her belt and pointed it at June's wrists. The binders clicked open and fell to the floor with a clatter. June rubbed his sore wrists. He stood up slowly, his legs feeling weak. He stepped out of the cell into the bright light of the hallway. He was free. The Empress did not look at him. Her gaze was still locked on Captain Park. You will inform the Chamberlain of my new appointment. You will also tell them that any further interference in the matters of my council will be considered a direct challenge to my authority. Is that understood? Captain Park gave a sharp mechanical nod. Yes, Your Majesty. Good, you are dismissed. Captain Park turned and walked away, her shoulders slumped in defeat. The two guards quickly followed, leaving June alone with the Empress in the empty corridor. The moment they were gone, the immense power seemed to drain from the Empress's posture. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. She finally turned to look at June. The burning anger in her eyes was gone, replaced by a weary relief. Are you unharmed? She asked, her voice returning to its familiar, chime-like softness. I think so, June stammered. He looked at her, at the magnificent royal gown and the glowing crown. Your Majesty, what did you just do? I made a choice, she said simply. I have been a symbol for 1,000 years. It is time I also became a person, and I cannot do that alone. She began to walk, and he fell into step beside her, just like in the garden. But this was different. They were not hidden among the plants. They were walking through the main corridors of the station in plain sight. People stopped and stared. Humans, Zephyrians, other alien species, all of them froze as the Empress passed, their eyes wide with shock. They saw their divine ruler in full regalia, walking next to a simple human in a gardener's uniform. Whispers followed them like a trail of smoke. June felt every eye on him. He felt exposed and terrified. Everyone is looking, he whispered. Let them look, the Empress said, her chin held high. Let them see that their Empress is not a statue. Let them see that I have chosen a voice for the things that matter. She led him not back to the Arboretum, and not to his small room, but to a part of the station he had never seen. The doors were larger, the hallways wider and more beautifully decorated. They arrived at a set of enormous engraved doors that slid open to reveal her private chambers. The room was vast and breathtaking. One entire wall was a window looking out at the star-filled blackness of space. The furniture was elegant and minimal. It was beautiful, but like the rest of the station, it felt more like a museum than a home. The doors closed behind them, sealing them in a sudden, profound quiet. The Empress turned to him. She reached up and carefully removed the crystal crown from her head. She placed it on a stand. It was a simple action, but it felt hugely significant. She was taking off her title, if only for a moment. They were going to send you away, she said. She looked out the giant window. They were going to erase your memory of me, of our evening. I could not allow that, you heard? Joan asked, surprised. I have my ways, she said. This station has ears, and some of them listen for me. She turned back to him. That night was the first real moment of my long life, June. I will not let them punish the person who gave it to me. June's head was spinning. But Royal Council of Experiential Truth? What does that even mean? A real, genuine smile touched her lips. It means whatever we decide it means. It means you are now my official advisor on life, on real things. You will have the authority to request anything you need. More food, more films, seeds for new plants. Anything that can help bridge the gap between this cage and the universe outside. She walked closer to him. It means you do not have to hide anymore. You can stand beside me. June looked at her. He saw the hope in her eyes. He also saw the fear. She had started a war with her own government by doing this. She had risked everything for him. They will not be happy, he said, gesturing vaguely towards the door, meaning the chamberlains and the advisors. Captain Park said it could weaken your rule. My rule has been weak because it was rooted in silence and distance, she replied firmly. An empire that does not understand the people it rules is an empire that will fall. You will help me understand. You will help me remember what it is to feel. That will make me stronger, not weaker. She offered him a small data pad. This is for you. It has your new identification. Your living quarters have been changed to the suite next to mine. You will have full access to the station. June took the data pad. It felt heavy in his hand. His life had been turned upside down in a single hour. He was no longer June the gardener. He was the consul to the Empress. It was terrifying. He looked out the window at the endless stars. He thought about Earth, about his family, about his simple life. It was all so far away now. I am afraid, he admitted quietly. So am I, the Empress said, standing beside him. She followed his gaze to the stars. But for the first time, I am not afraid of being alone. Her words settled something inside him. The fear was still there, but it was now mixed with a fierce determination. She had thrown a lightning bolt at her entire world to keep him. He would not abandon her. What do we do now? He asked. Now, she said, we have a great deal of work to do. The Chamberlain will want to meet you. There will be protocols to change. There will be many people who are very angry with us. She looked at him, her silver eyes clear and calm. But first I am hungry, and the station paste is unsatisfactory. Can your new office arrange for something better? June looked at the data pad in his hand. He thought about the simple power it now held. He thought about the bibimbap and her joyful laugh. A slow smile spread across his face. Yes, Your Majesty, he said. I believe it can. He looked out the window again. The stars were no longer cold, distant points of light. They were now a million possibilities. He was no longer a tool. He was a partner. He was the bridge between an empress and her people. The road ahead would be difficult and dangerous. But he was not walking it alone. He was walking it with a friend. And for now, that was enough.